The Panthers were able to bounce back in a big way on Saturday night against the Washington Capitals, and Matthew Tkachuk will make his season debut against the Sharks.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, January 19th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, and it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, the host of the show, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The conference championship round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. So Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. Today we are going to discuss the Panthers' big win over the Washington Capitals by a final score of 5-2 with two empty netters to make the score worse than it actually was. And the Panthers getting Matthew Tkachuk back tonight against the San Jose Sharks in an earlier game than we expected, with the Miami Hurricanes playing in the national championship tonight from Hard Rock Stadium, and also previewing the opponent and seeing where the San Jose Sharks are coming into this matchup between them and the Florida Panthers. So let's start off with the game on Saturday night for the Florida Panthers. And if you listen to Friday night going into Saturday morning's episode of the show, I was not in a great mood after that game for the Panthers giving up 9 goals against the Carolina Hurricanes on the front end of a back-to-back. Sergei Bobrovsky was held to dry. And then after the game, which we recorded 10 minutes after that game, usually when it's a blowout like that, I'm faster to do recaps versus letting the post-game show play out. But one thing that I did miss from Friday night's game, when Paul Maurice spoke to the media, which it was in the middle of our recording, was something that he said that really stuck out to me, and it looks better now that the Panthers did find a way to get the win over the Washington Capitals by a final score of 5-2, is saying these words, quote, "We're going to be right tomorrow," close quote. And certainly the Florida Panthers were, as they were starting to buzz from the very start of the game. I mean, the Reinhart line in the first shift of the game, pinning the Washington Capitals in their own end for almost 2 minutes, and then getting them to ice the puck in the middle of that same shift. And then the Bennett line starting to get going as well. Also, the Panthers had a season debut in the game with Tobias Bjornfot in the game as well. It's with Toby Bjornfot being in the mix for the Florida Panthers now in his third year after the Panthers claimed him off waivers from the Vegas Golden Knights, originally a first-round pick from the LA Kings, and he was starting to buzz in this game. The Panthers were setting him up well, to getting chances off puck from coming from the blue line, creeping up towards the circle or the high slot, getting his shot opportunities there. I thought he was very active in the play, and also protecting the blue lines pretty well, as we saw on one of the goals, because of the fact that Uvis Belinskis took a shot block, was in the bench, missed a few shifts, and then on one of the goals that the Panthers scored, the second one for them to make it 2-2, that was because of Tobias Bjornfot not allowing that Strome line to get a clear, and then the Panthers finding a way to tie the game there, thanks to Sam Bennett for that second goal of the game. But there's a few times that in this game where I thought that the Panthers really could have fallen apart. On the first goal, where it was thankfully the Panthers were able to challenge it for offside, with Alexei Protas getting a nice foot or two past the blue line which forced the play offside, and the Panthers win that challenge. The Panthers, when it comes to challenges, when it comes to offside, they rarely lose on those. And also, when the Washington Capitals were starting to make their big push, the second period was really the only period where they really had a major push, and the Panthers gave up 2 unanswered goals in that period. Both of them to Jacob Chikrin, one of them off the rush as he was coming off the left wing, and then off the cycle where they were working the low to high play, and then Jacob Chikrin getting through the screen. 17 goals for the Boca Raton native defenseman, who unfortunately was not part of Team Canada when they originally announced their roster. So that's going to be a big piece missed. Him on the defense, Sam Bennett for the forward. So that is crazy to think of how there's so much talent missing on the roster, and Team Canada is still stacked for the Olympics. But getting the first lead after that challenge, it was less than a minute after that challenge, and the Panthers won, that they were able to take a 1-0 lead 40 seconds after, where Sam Bennett was his own F1, tried to jam it in, and then AJ Greer coming off puck, driving to the net, and then Logan Thompson not even seeing him coming, and then making it goal number 10 for number 10. So multiple guys have been able to just contribute on the night. And then Uvis Belinskis, second straight game that he got a goal, and then in on that same power play for the Panthers where he scored, he was also protecting the blue lines. We spoke about Tobias Bjornfot protecting it, also Uvis Belinskis as well. The Panthers were timely on their pinches. They were pinned towards the half wall, where they were just able to just get it back to the corners and allow their forwards to get to the battle, and then Uvis Belinskis from the blue line getting it through and taking a 3-2 lead at the time. And then for the Panthers, if Friday night did not happen the way it did for the Cats, you wouldn't see as much of a dominance, in my opinion, in that third period where they did, because I mean, usually when the Panthers are up either a goal or two, and the Panthers are usually play well when they do have a lead, where they shut it down, even when the shots aren't going in their direction. They know how to just flip the puck out of the zone, let the 4 lines roll, and everything. But the Panthers just continued to push. They really wanted that insurance goal. Yeah, it did not come until the 2 empty netters after, but still, for this Panthers team and their ability to push, if that didn't happen, I don't believe that we would have seen that much of a push to get that extra goal for them. So got to give credit, and the fact that they suppressed as many shots as they did in that third period against the Washington Capitals, definitely got to give a lot of props to how the Panthers just played overall in that one, and sweeping the season series against this team. This was a team. This is a Capitals team, although this was they were on the positive side of PDO last year, and of course, when a lot of guys have career highs and they're younglings, like the Washington Capitals are, that was due for a little bit of regression the very next year, which is why I said multiple times in going into the season, and even now, that I don't believe that the Capitals were a team that was going to make the postseason. And you know what? This loss hurts for the Capitals more than it does the Panthers, because they played more games than Florida as well, and the Panthers are just creeping up slowly in this wild card race. As you know, they right before the win for the Panthers, they were getting a lot of favors done for them with the Buffalo Sabres losing in overtime. At the time of the win, both the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs were losing, but then those 2 teams ended up coming back. So getting the 2 points for the Panthers, important. 3-0 on the trip. There's still a little bit left to be desired for the Panthers, but still, you found a way to bounce back multiple times throughout this, especially when you drop the first 2 in Montreal and Toronto. Well, not in the same order, Toronto and then Montreal, but still, for the Panthers, and the fact that they've gotten their power play going as well, especially after the first 2 games, very, very encouraging for this Florida Panthers team. And you look at this group for the Panthers, where 6 times this season have the Panthers lost by 4 goals or more. Every single time the Panthers have lost by more than 4 goals, which we don't want to see, the Panthers have gone on to win in regulation. And now the Panthers are 11-3-1 this season when coming off a regulation loss. And most of those losses for the Panthers after regulation have come in the beginning of the season after that 4-game road trip for the Panthers. So really, ever since the middle of November, the Panthers have just been right after a loss like that. The one overtime loss was the one against the Nashville Predators, where they just couldn't get an insurance goal and then allowing Nashville to come back. So yeah, great for the Panthers to find a way to respond the way they did. And also of those losses that were 4 goals or more, only 2 of them that they've given up were empty netters. So it's not like the empty netters have skewed the goals against in that direction. I mean, it's been when it rained, it pours, just like those opportunities that the Panthers were giving up in Carolina. It didn't need to come towards the empty net, as the Panthers just weren't skating multiple times when they were down by multiple goals. So credit to the Panthers. They learn to live another day, and they find a way to continue to bounce back after. So got to give credit to them. But the Panthers will be getting a player back tonight when they do face the San Jose Sharks in Matthew Tkachuk. But also one thing that the cameras caught on Saturday night was Paul Maurice going one by one for thanking the players, and we're also going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and the conference championship game is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every playoff game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. Every game day feels bigger, and the boost makes your bet feel that way too. The boost gives you more juice to bet on bets you actually like, instead of forcing you to bet something new. You make your picks and apply your profit boost to get even more payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, and also on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. And if you haven't already, check out our Everydayer Club. It's an access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. It's an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And tap the link in the show notes to learn more. So one thing that I want to discuss just about, not only that the Panthers have been able to come back from games after giving up more than 4 goals or after regulation, but the Script Sports broadcast did zoom into Paul Maurice on the bench, and then just going one by one, patting players on the back, saying thank you, and also the fact that they were as energetic as they were on Saturday night. I mean, Sam Bennett, although it was a multi-point game for him, a goal and 2 assists there, one of them on the empty net, 11 shot attempts. That line was continuing to buzz, and the fact that he hasn't had a complement of his players for the most part, AJ Greer filling in that spot there, and we'll discuss Matthew Tkachuk in just a little bit in this segment, but the fact that he has stepped up his game for the most part there is definitely, you want guys like Sam Bennett as the season goes on there. And then Paul Maurice doing that, it just goes to show how much of a player's coach he is. And players from other teams look at that. When you have an opportunity to just call out your team for how they played on Friday night, which Paul Maurice has once again said that he hasn't been as hard on the guys this season because of the fact of what they're facing with the injuries. He had an opportunity to go there, but he didn't. This is why he's the coach and I'm not, right? So with how upset and annoyed I was with Friday night's performance there. But again, players look at that and see the culture that this team has created over the last few years. And that's just one example of many here. But the Panthers will be getting back Matthew Tkachuk tonight against the San Jose Sharks. And it started when it came to the transactions right before they hit the ice for morning skate, when Noah Gregor was officially sent down to the Charlotte Checkers. He cleared waivers days ago, but he was still with the team and he was still on the roster, but they could have made that move anytime. And they weren't making that move unless there was going to be some type of return tonight for the Panthers, whether it was going to be Brad Marchand or Matthew Tkachuk. Seth Jones is still not expected to be back until before the Olympic break. So we'll see what happens with Seth Jones there. But here is what the roster move will have to be for the Panthers here in order to bring Matthew Tkachuk back. They're going to have to retroactively place Seth Jones from regular injured reserve to long-term injured reserve. So you actually switch who gets the $3.8 million of cap relief for the Panthers here. So now that transitions from Matthew Tkachuk to Seth Jones, and the Panthers are in the exact same place from where they are as far as the available cap space for them. Brad Marchand, he's not on the active roster, but because he's on regular IR, if it was just him returning, you wouldn't have had to make another move for the Panthers here to bring him back. But with Matthew Tkachuk carrying a $9.5 million AAV on his contract, that's why you have to make the move for Seth Jones on LTIR, which hasn't been updated yet, but it will be soon there for the Panthers. But Matthew Tkachuk expected to be on the third line with Evan Rodrigues and Mackie Samoskevich, and Sandis Vilmanis will now be on the fourth line for the Panthers here. So, this is for the Panthers and their way of easing Matthew Tkachuk back into action. I mean, we saw that especially with when the Panthers did bring him back in Game 1 of the playoffs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was averaging around 12 minutes in that first round for them, and really started the Stanley Cup playoffs with a bang with that two goal performance in Game 1, and then get into GWG in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final in 2025 against the Edmonton Oilers. And the fact that he was still as productive as he was in those playoffs, you got to be really excited for what he's able to do. Now the fact that he's gone through the operation, he's gone through his offseason, getting married this offseason, and his honeymoon, the being on the cover of the newest NHL game as well. So he's been through a lot this summer, and just the fact that he's home watching these games, wasn't on a single trip for the Panthers until this most recent one. I mean, chomping at the bit for him to get back here, and the fact that the Panthers have been able to, I know we've said this phrase a lot ever since the injury from last February. We're going on almost 11, actually more than 11 months, because that game between the USA and Canada at the Four Nations was on February 15th of 2025. We're January 19th. So more than 11 months we've known about this Matthew Tkachuk injury. So it's 11 months of pain, 11 months of recovery, 11 months of uncertainty, everything that you could think of when it comes to when Matthew Tkachuk first went down. And we knew that he was going to miss the rest of the regular season. I was thinking, okay, he misses that Monday game in the Four Nations, because we knew that because the fact that USA won those first two games to qualify for the championship game, he had no reason to play in that game. And then the fact that injury didn't get any better when he played in that Four Nations final against Canada, having to sit out. We even knew that if he was getting out of there healthy, that the Panthers were going to have to LTIR him, because the fact that he just was hobbling on the ice and just not moving the way that he did. But he's back. He's healthy. He's here. And I don't know if he's going to play on power play 1 to start this for the Panthers, but man, what a boost that would be for the Panthers there. And the fact that it's been mostly Marchand playing on the behind the goal line on the power play. Maybe he does actually take those minutes there on the first power play unit. That would at least give a better option to set up Sam Reinhart from that bumper position to at least get the Panthers power play going, even though it's actually been a lot better, especially on the road as of late. Mostly the November numbers for the Panthers have been the reason why the numbers have been so bad on the man advantage for the Cats there. But Matthew Tkachuk brings all of that. He brings the post whistle stuff that brings the guys into the fight, the chirping back and forth for the Panthers there. So that is everything for the Panthers, and just how he's changed the identity, especially when Bill Zito first made that trade back on July 22nd of 2022. So a big day in Florida Panthers history when Bill Zito officially made that move. And the fact is, we know that Matthew Tkachuk is for the theatrics. It didn't necessarily come in the Winter Classic, which, funny enough, I'm wearing my Winter Classic t-shirt here on the podcast, but in a way, it's a little bit of the theatrics with the Miami Hurricanes playing in the national championship tonight. He spoke about wanting to grow the hockey in South Florida on the college level with the U, which, funny enough, the University of Miami is now calling Kendall Ice Arena home, and they have the logo there to play their game. So usually on the back for the benches, you see the Miami Toros, the youth development league there. But now you see the U logo there. So it's kind of a full circle moment for the sport of hockey in South Florida, but also a full circle moment for yours truly as someone who used to live 5 minutes away from Kendall Ice Arena there. So kind of cool that Matthew Tkachuk's impact and the fact that the Panthers have won the multiple Stanley Cups is also the fact that he's spoken about hockey at the college level there, and the fact that St. Thomas University also will be playing their club hockey games at the Baptist Health Iceplex in Fort Lauderdale. So different rinks to see club hockey for around South Florida, not just the Florida Panthers. And maybe if Matthew Tkachuk comes out unscathed tonight's game between them and the San Jose Sharks, which is a 6 p.m. game, it should be a 4 p.m. game because it's MLK Day, a lot of matinee games. So the fact that the Sharks had 2 days off and the Panthers had a day off, I'm surprised that they didn't schedule it for earlier. So there's no crossover between the two. Matthew Tkachuk could have played, and he could have head right down to Hard Rock Stadium to watch the game tonight between the Miami Hurricanes and the Indiana Hoosiers for a chance for the U to win their first national championship since 2001, and then bringing another championship to South Florida as well, as this place has this place knows how to win. We just know how. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss the opponent for the Florida Panthers that Matthew Tkachuk will be making his return against, and that's the San Jose Sharks. And the fact is, the Panthers have an opportunity to get a little bit of revenge themselves after coming up short the last time these two teams played. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And if you have ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role and makes a real difference. According to Indeed's data, sponsored job posts directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your job posts to give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, and an exciting Monday for everybody here in South Florida, with once again the national championship for the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers in action tonight against the San Jose Sharks from Amerant Bank Arena. Just one home game for the Cats right before they're back on the road before they head to Winnipeg, Minnesota, and then Chicago. For it's just a quick stop at home. Wash your clothes, get new ones for when they hit the road, because it's going to be cold next week over in the Midwest. But the San Jose Sharks, the opponent that they're facing tonight, and it's crazy what a story in year 2 for the San Jose Sharks here, with especially Macklin Celebrini in year 2 in the NHL. He is on a similar trajectory in year 2 than Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby. Before you guys look up how many more points than he has than this second best player on his team, what do you guys think that it is at before I say it here on the show? Take a few seconds to guess. All right, time is up. So the amount of points that he has over the next best player on his team is 40. 72 points. The next best player is at 32, factoring in over 50% of his team goals. He's going to be with Team Canada in the Olympics this year from BC, just like Connor Bedard, just like Sam Reinhart. There's just something about WHL players, even though Macklin Celebrini played in the NCAA at Boston University, and also those West Coast Canadian players that come from there. Just so much talent that comes from that part of the country in Canada. But I personally believe when it comes to the MVP and the Hart Trophy, that it's literally in the name, most valuable player to his team. Yeah, that, and the Ted Lindsay, which is voted by the players, that is the best player. But most valuable, what Macklin Celebrini means to his team, he is that. And that's why if I had a vote, Macklin Celebrini would be that. I know Connor McDavid is at a over 2 points per game over the last month. Nathan McKinnon is on fire for what he is continuing to do with the Colorado Avalanche, who actually suffered their first regulation loss at home this year to the Nashville Predators. But Celebrini is doing it all on both ends of the ice. And also, there is, for this San Jose Sharks team, they're still building around a lot of young guys, which Michael Misa, he had an injury. He also was on Canada's World Junior team most recently, and also has officially surpassed the 9-game threshold to burn the first year of his ELC after being drafted second overall in this most recent draft. So a lot of their younger players are getting into the mix. Sam Dickinson is in game 39 after just playing in the Memorial Cup just last year. So he's playing some of those third pair minutes right before he's expected to take a bigger role next year, which San Jose, they only have one defenseman on a one-way contract going into next year. The rest of them are either expiring deals or they're two-way deals for them. So there's going to be a lot of cap space for Mike Grier to work with. So that's a Grier. Unlike Chris Grier, Mike Grier is looks like he knows how to rebuild a team there over in Northern California. But there's also still questions for this San Jose Sharks team, who's in the last playoff spot. If the season were to end today, they would be playing the number 1 seed in the West, Colorado Avalanche. Yeah, they wouldn't be favored in that series, but that is experience that you give that young group. That you can't. There's nothing more that there's nothing that could buy that than experience. So the question is, do they stand pat at the trade deadline, or do they bring a little bit of reinforcements for this young team to get some a veteran presence there. But there's also some players on deals that expire, like a Mario Ferraro, who's been disgruntled at times based on how the rebuild has gone. They claimed Nick Leddy off of waivers from the St. Louis Blues to help them get to the cap floor. Yeah, they took the Carey Price contract, but the Nick Leddy one has also helped them get to the cap floor as well. So there's a little bit of that balancing act on whether to buy or sell there in order to get more picks to help them possibly buy even more this offseason, which they're expected to have $50 million of cap space coming into this season. But also that's going to be used to extend some of the guys on their roster as well. So there's also that they got to factor when it comes to that. But as far as tonight's game between these two teams, last time this Panthers and Sharks team faced early November, the Panthers were in the middle of their West Coast swing there and dominating the shots on goal department especially outside of the first period, where they flipped the script and ended up 39-23 as far as the total shots, but they were only able to get one goal out of that, which Brad Marchand was able to cut the deficit to 2-1 at the time. But the Panthers kept pushing and just couldn't solve Yaroslav Askarov there. And 20 of those shots actually came in the second period. And the Panthers had 5 power play opportunities. And this was one of those games a few months ago where you're thinking, man, the Panthers should have gotten 2 points, and instead they come out with 0. And this was at the time where the Panthers were having a hard time getting goal support for Daniil Tarasov. And we were thinking, what does Daniil Tarasov have to do? Because so many great starts at the beginning of his Panthers tenure that the Panthers were just not giving him goal support there for that specific game. I mean, a late Saturday night 10:30 game for the Panthers there, and they were pushing. You would think that for at least for me, not having to record a show at least the very next day, I'm just thinking, yeah, late night hockey on a Saturday night against a team that's still very young. And the Panthers just couldn't find a way to get those 2 points there. And that was kind of when the Panthers were starting to like go the other way as far as like falling in the standings right before eventually falling to last place in the East on December 2nd after losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs. But since that game in early November, the Sharks are 17-14-0. The Panthers have a slightly better record over the San Jose Sharks during that time. But one thing that these two teams also have in common is that these two teams don't go to overtime. Either they find a way to win in overtime, or they find a way to win in regulation, or win or lose in regulation. So no overtime losses at all for the San Jose Sharks during this span. They have a total of 3 overtime losses. The Panthers also have a total of 3 overtime losses as well there. So they're fine. You could see just by the way just for their record that they're finding a way to win inside of the 60 minutes there. And of the 24 wins that they have, most of them are actually coming in overtime as well. So they're not if they do. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If they are going into overtime, they're finding a way to win as opposed to losing, because they have 13 regulation wins and 11 of those either in an overtime or a shootout. Excuse me. So let me rephrase that. They're not finding a way to lose in overtime. So hey, with a lot of young speed, and when 3-on-3 hockey is when they have the time and space there, they're finding a way to get goals there. But for this Sharks team, they're still finding a way to play a little bit of structure there, which they're not in the top half of really any category. Goals against, goals for, goals against, they're 30th. PK percentage, they're also in the bottom third as well, as they're 25th. So this is an opportunity for the Panthers power play to continue to get going. And once again, we don't know if that boost of Matthew Tkachuk is automatically putting him on power play 1 there. I would love to see it, but again, this is about easing him back into action when he does make his return. So we'll see if the Panthers do actually have actually make that happen. And you know what? If he finds a way to get a goal, I'm very curious to see how loud that barn will be on Monday night when the Panthers do take on the Sharks. And hopefully the Panthers need every point that they can. So important 2 points. And we're going to continue to harp on that throughout the year, as hopefully this brings the Panthers a little bit closer to that final wild card spot. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Make sure to tune into tomorrow's show where we will recap this game between the Florida Panthers and the San Jose Sharks. It's once again a quick pit stop back home right before the Florida Panthers hit the road. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.